Hello and welcome to Emerging Aurora's Off the Cuff, the podcast that brings you the inspiring stories behind the local businesses driving our community forward. I'm your host, Vern Cunningham, and today we've got something of interest for everyone who is starting a business or wants to grow their existing business. It's lonely at the top, and this business is there to help you achieve your objectives. If you're an entrepreneur looking for insight or just love discovering the talent and passion shaping Aurora, this episode is for you and is one of recognizing a need and following through. Our guest today is Tracy Smith from Kitchen Table CEOs and is offering hope and assistance to all. Welcome, Tracy.
Thank you, Vern. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Now, I got a list of questions here.
Okay.
But don't worry about them too much. They're more for a guide than anything else. But let's start with your story.
Okay.
What inspired you to start your virtual business here in Aurora, and how has the town shaped your journey?
Well, first of all, I live in Aurora with my family when I started my business, and I've lived here quite a long time. So there wasn't really, because it's a virtual business, there wasn't really any other option for me. I was definitely going to be starting it in Aurora. And what motivated me to actually start and create my marketing agency was that I was working very part-time with some local businesses, and I kept hearing from them frustrations over writing and social media and marketing. And these were things that I did, and I thought, wait a second, I never understood, I never knew before that the things that I liked doing were maybe the things that these small business owners really disliked doing. So I thought, you know what, I want to formalize my services and offer them back to help small businesses so they can do what they're meant to do. You know, oftentimes it's not writing and it's not social media. It's making a cake or opening a paint store or whatever it is you do. So I really set out to help make their job easier, to market their business and help them get out in front of their audience so that they could actually grow their business. And the name behind Kitchen Table CEOs is just that, you know, when you work within a big corporation or organization, sometimes you take for granted that you have a department for everything. So you know, if you need help with your phone or your tech, or you need a tool, or the website needs to be changed, there's usually somebody to call for that. But when you have a small business, it's all on your shoulders, and that can be super, super overwhelming. So the idea of Kitchen Table CEOs is to say, you know, there's lots of us out there running our business from the kitchen table, not the corner office with multi-departments. So let's unite. We can still do an amazing job, but I'm here to offer a little bit of support and I guess be the marketing department for people.
That's very wise. I love having meetings around a kitchen table.
Absolutely.
And the reason I like it is because it's very intimate. It's not, everyone's kitchen table is warm and exciting and close and so on. So I love your name, by the way, and that's what I'm trying to tell you.
Usually better snacks at a kitchen table too, right? Closer to the fridge.
And it works. Now, by looking at your literature, I noticed that it's primarily female focused, which is terrific because I think that everyone needs help running a business. Now, do you also address the needs of some male entrepreneurs trying to grow a business in Aurora?
Absolutely. It's a funny question because often people ask like, oh, I'd love to work with you, but you know, it doesn't sound like maybe you're talking to me on your website sort of thing. Absolutely, I work with males and females, but marketing 101 is, you know, pick your ideal client and kind of niche down. So I do work more with females. And so a lot of my literature and website is tailored to those specific needs or problems that maybe females or working moms face that might be slightly different from males. But that's not to say I can't work with male CEOs to help them with their online marketing as well. And I often do, and I have many male clients.
Yeah, I think the problem with the small business, and I started my business small, is you have a skill set, but your skill set is not in everything. So you need assistance. You need an accounting firm. You need a legal firm. You can't do it all yourself. So really, you need people such as yourself to make sure that you're not focusing on the wrong things.
Well, I think the hard thing is when you're starting out, you like to think that you do everything best. And it is a major important step if you are to take that next piece of growth, is to identify that if you really do want to grow, you can't do it all. And so what are those things that you're really good at and you like doing versus the ones you don't like doing or that you're not very good at, and get those handed off as soon as possible, right?
Totally right. Totally right. So how do you identify the businesses that would benefit from your expertise?
Well, I meet my clients in a lot of different places. I'm fortunate, again, to have lived in Aurora for 35 years, and I'm a talker. I'm not afraid to chat with people when I go into local businesses and things. So a lot of times it's just word of mouth and being comfortable enough to, when you meet people or introduce yourself, to tell them a little bit about what you do and not shy away from that. And then it's word of mouth of people going, "Oh, I didn't know you did that. Do you think maybe you could help me with this?" And friends telling friends. There's also more formal networks. I was fortunate to join the Chamber of Commerce, and they offer a lot of really great smaller group programs for entrepreneurs. They had a women's mastermind. So the more people that you can meet that know what you do and that can help spread the word, it really helps. Of course, traditional things like social media and websites and things like that. The other thing that I think works really, really well are almost strategic partnerships, where, as an example, when I was starting my business, I needed a website. So I met this wonderful woman. She had her own business, and shout out to Rosewood Marketing. She created my website. And then I started, as my business started to evolve, I noticed all of my clients needed websites. And so I said, well, this is silly. Like, I'm a copywriter. You create websites. Like, we should be working together. So then instantly, I'm feeding her clients saying, let me do the copywriting and the project management. You can do the tech side. And then vice versa. She will say, I need a copywriter on this. And then it's almost like magic once you start creating partnerships like that. Because if you like working with each other and you trust different people, that's half the battle in having good work ethic and delivering great projects. I also did that with a photographer. When you have a website, you're starting a new business, all my clients needed photos. So I found a couple local photographers that I trust and feed them business, work together, they feed business back, and it's a great thing because you're helping each other.
Yeah, and a lot of people have a hard time wrapping their head around that because they say, oh, well, I can take pictures, I can do this. But it's a lot more than taking a picture. You have to do the lighting. You have to know how to do it.
Absolutely.
It's a skill. It's not something that you can wake up in the morning and you're an expert. So I think it's very wise. I've done it, and a lot of my friends who have businesses have done it. Collaborate with people that bring something more to the party than you have. And that's terrific. And that's the only way to succeed in business.
Well, especially if you have a very similar work ethic, because half the battle is having somebody that views the caliber of excellence or timelines. And if you find somebody that kind of operates in the same way you do, I think that's a powerful mix.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's nice too, because then you can run things off somebody else. Because usually when you're running a small business, you can't always talk to your employees if you have employees. But if you have people such as photographer or website designer that you're working as a team, you can run things by them and come up with better solutions.
For sure.
So it's quite wise to do it that way. Now, Aurora has a unique community feel. And I don't know if you're aware of it, but I was on the Economic Advisory Board for the town of Aurora. And I'm really proud of this municipality for what they want to do to help businesses grow. Is there something about the local cultural people or people that you think this organization gives you an edge from the town of Aurora?
Well, interesting fun fact. I am also now currently on the Aurora Economic Development Committee. So thanks for starting it out. And I'm carrying in your footsteps. In some ways, it's really hard for me to answer that because I've lived in Aurora most of my life. So I don't have, 10 comparisons of hopping all over Canada and that. But I will say that I think in Aurora, people genuinely care. I think one of the reasons I hear people move here or, a spouse is dragged here by an Auroran, But the reason why they want to stay or the reason why they come is there is genuinely that feeling of community, whether it's the farmer's market, whether it's the street sale, whether it's the different cultural events that happen. Like, people really do want to be here and meet people and support the local community. You look at just all the magic that's happened with the Aurora Town Square finally being built, and I'm just super excited by all of that energy. Now, interesting on this question, I just conducted some interviews for potential new candidates for the Aurora Economic Development Committee.
For you. Good
yeah.
for you.
And the interesting thing, and I was so excited when I was talking to most of the people, is most of them said that even though they were, applying for an economic committee, that the economics had to be balanced with that community identity feel. And I think that's the nail on the head or head on the nail, whatever the saying is.
Whatever.
I think it's that balance that, some communities you see just kind of sell out all the way to like massive growth, or some communities are so tightly fixed on, their past that they're not able to grow. And I think Aurora has this amazing potential to really have a great combination of both. And that's what I'm really excited about, sitting on the board and being a part of some of those projects and helping small businesses, but at the same time, look at innovation. It's really cool.
It's hard to explain unless you've had the opportunity to be on it, to see that the town really cares about businesses, really cares about attracting the right kind of businesses in Aurora, ones that'll thrive here. And I had a business in Aurora for 25 years before I retired, and I thought it was a great place. A lot of really, really nice people.
Yeah.
So if you could collaborate with any other business leader or business individual in Aurora or York region, who would it be, and what would it be? Because it doesn't have to be a person as much as could be a company as well. What would you love to create together?
Well, I don't know if you know this, but I do run an event series called the Oh Yes We Can event series. So I've been really, really fortunate in the last 2 years to, because of this event and organizing speakers and attendees and sponsors, I really have gotten to work with a lot of different types of individuals and businesses in the community. So that's really, really been rewarding. But one individual I actually met with this week is Julianne Goyette in Newmarket. And I've known Julianne I've known her for a while, but not super well. And over the last year, I've just noticed we do very, very similar things in our communities, or we'll know similar people, or we're doing the same thing for a project, but I didn't know she was there. So I actually was meeting with her this week, kind of putting it out there, like, what could we work on together? And her background in business is in finance. And so I would really like to, one of my dreams for 2025 is to add a finance event for females. And I'd really love to collaborate with Julianne on that. So putting it out in the world, Julianne. And I do have one other person. This is more the York Region community. And most people would know this awesome, bright human being, but Dina Pugliese-Merkovich, who used to be on Breakfast Television.
Oh, excellent.
I don't know her super well, but she has supported one of my events in the past. And she just has a wonderful post-breakfast television story about really following her heart and her health and creating this new clean beauty and skincare line and health and hair, and just really following her heart and doing something really good for the world. And I would love, love, love to have her speak to the women at my Oh Yes We Can event, which is for women entrepreneurs, and just share her story and what motivated her or what gave her the courage to kind of do a complete U-turn. I think that would be pretty powerful. So I'm putting those things out in the universe officially today.
Don't forget to send both of them the link to the podcast.
Okay, I will.
Because they'd love to see it, I'm sure. They'd love your enthusiasm like I do.
Okay.
So terrific, Tracy. Keep
Thanks.
it up. And how can business better support each other for collaborative success? You've mentioned the people that you want to work with, and that's exactly collaborative success. But how can businesses do more of that? Do they address people such as yourself to become like a a matchmaker, I guess, for the lack of a better term.
Well, I'm happy to be a matchmaker for any businesses looking to find a certain other type of business. But I think something that is so important is the theme or embracing collaboration over competition. So, being in the entrepreneurial world, I sort of see two types of people. You see the ones that are very closely guarded with what their business is doing. They would never want to be in another room with a competitor, speaking about business at all. Very guarded, if you will. And then you see others that are more like, you know what, I don't even know how many people are in York Region, but, even if there's...
It's over 1 million.
Okay, so if there's 200 interior designers, I'm sure there's even more. There's plenty of business out there for all the interior designers,
yes.
Right? If there's 4 grocery stores in Aurora or more, I'm sure there's lots of business out there. So when we can talk about our common struggles, when we can, understand how each of us is different too. If you're doing your business right, you're going to be slightly different than your competitor anyway, right? So I've seen such powerful things happen when businesses business leaders can meet, can collaborate, can talk, and also just, refer, like we said, a lot of referrals, talking back and forth, and joining different groups and being open to, I want to be the woman that walks into the room and mentions all the other women you could be working with, or like it's something like
being supportive of other females. But you know what? It's really quite interesting. I'm a business person as well. And I am of the opinion that women are better collaborating with each other than men are.
Okay.
Because women are very social, more social than males. Males are a little obviously different, which is good. I mean, it's not a bad thing. But women have this skill set of working with people that men don't have generally. And I shouldn't generalize about that. But it's so refreshing from at my age, in my category, to see more and more women getting involved in business instead of the traditional running a daycare center or being a teacher or being a nurse. But running a business, terrific, because you bring so much to industry that we've been lacking for many years that I think it'll make us stronger as a city, obviously, as a town, and as a nation. And again, you have to think positively, right?
Absolutely.
Instead of saying, oh, well,
Absolutely. And I think, hats off to all the teachers and nurses. Absolutely, for sure.
Yes.
But I think one of the things a lot of women find attractive about entrepreneurship too is the flexibility. Do you work your butt off? Is it absolutely? Is it going to be, easy and you're working less than your 9 to 5? No. But that flexibility of choosing when you work, being able to say, yeah, I'm going to work tonight, but I'm going to take tomorrow morning off and be able to do X, Y, and Z. I think that's appealing to everybody, but especially women and moms who are often, right or wrong, juggling a ton of other different things. I think that's super appealing to be able to have control over your schedule and things like that.
Yeah, very, very critical. Now, advice. I shouldn't say we all like advice. A lot of people don't like getting advice. But if you had advice to give someone thinking of growing a business in Aurora,
okay,
what would it be?
So the key word being growing. You have your business and you're trying to grow it. Maybe you're struggling a little bit with getting some traction. You want your name out there. I honestly would say really be conscious about building a community and a network around you, and a true one. Not just, hey, I'm popping into a room, I'm spreading out my business cards, and everybody's doing that. But some communities and networks of people that you are getting to know, and that again, I always joke, I'm like, don't miss the opportunity to give your elevator pitch and tell somebody who you are, because you don't know who the next 5 people are that person's going to meet, or somebody's going to say, hey, I'm looking for somebody who does websites, and then they're your walking billboard for you, right? So when you think about those little circles going out, but even beyond that, just the genuine interest, like what we were saying about what makes Aurora different. It's not a calculated thing. It's just the more people that you know and that care about you and think that you're doing a great thing, the more they're going to help spread the word and tell you. So whether that's joining the Chamber of Commerce, whether it's joining a group or a board or getting involved with the town, even coaching your kids' baseball team. The more people that you can get to know and share your story with, and tell them what you're trying to do, you'll have a bigger team backing you up.
You're right, and that's the experience I've found too, is that the more people you speak to and get involved in, you can work together with them for both of you to succeed. And it's happened to me as well in this town.
Well, and how many times you're sitting in a room and you have no idea of what somebody does do. I think there's a stat or a saying that says once you share what you want to do out in the world, like there's a 90% better chance that you'll achieve it or something, right?
Oh, yeah.
So it's like that. Let's not keep our dreams to ourselves, our goals to ourselves. Let's share it with people, and then they can help us get there. So I think that's great. I thought I had another point, but my mind's escaping me.
You know what? It's very difficult when you're sitting down trying to do a podcast and talking back and forth. No, because it's difficult to come up with some of the things you want to say, and when you leave the room afterwards, you say, "Oh, I should have mentioned that."
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to leave some of the questions out, and we're just going to talk for a while. Okay. Where do you see yourself going?
Okay, well, it is January, so this is a good question for January. As I mentioned, I decided late 2024 that I would take my one Oh Yes We Can event called the Not to Be Missed Business Event for Women Entrepreneurs and make it a series. So my goal for 2025 is to introduce 3 or 4 more events to that series. So we have a Women's Health Summit coming up. I mentioned the financial event for females. I'm also looking at potentially a branding session. So I'm really trying to grow that event series to try to give women in York Region a trusted place that they can turn for various aspects of their career or business to get help, and then also to build that network. I run a monthly networking group too called Monthly Momentum. That's what I was going to say, actually. Okay. In that, a lot of the women that are in this group, we meet every month. We talk about different subjects. Sometimes it's subjects to help us with our business. Sometimes it's having to do with life. But more importantly, it's a sounding board. We're all business owners. We can ask questions. We can help. Like you said, oftentimes you don't have anybody to ask questions if you're at the top. Yeah. So sometimes I just ask them, what are you struggling with this week that you need some advice on? And we go around the table and do that. So I think it's just growing that community, introducing some more events. A few things up in the air, but I'm not ready to disclose yet.
No, but you know what? Is that a lot of times businesses lead you in a direction that you may not have envisioned when you started it.
Absolutely.
And that's good. And the advantage with that is you have to see that there's an opportunity and go for it.
Right.
And we all stumble along the road to success. So don't let that get you down. Because it happens to everybody. I read once that it takes 7 tries to become an overnight success. So running a business has challenges. And I think the environment that you're in allows you to do what you want to do because the people are here, the location is here. This locale is good because you can go east or west along northern routes instead of having to rely on the 407 or the 401, which virtually are parking lots in the morning. So, and that's one of the advantages of being here is you've got that option.
Absolutely.
So you can take Highway 9 and go anywhere you want, or you can take Bloomington or any of the other ones and go east, and which is what I do. If I'm going to Kingston or Montreal, sometimes I'll go along Highway 7 because I'm not in a hurry. And
take the scenic route.
And it's a beautiful day, and I have nothing happening except I'm spending the day getting to my destination. So location is so critical, I think, for some businesses, and you're in the right kind of business for that. Now, social media. That is something that hasn't existed for a long time. I mean, it's relatively new, I guess. So it's very much embryonic, and now we're getting into other technologies such as artificial intelligence and so on. How much of an impact does all that social media, artificial intelligence, Instagram, Facebook, how much of that impacts what you want to do?
Well, it's a biggie.
Difficult question.
I think the first thing is don't be fearful. Conquer fear with action. So listen to some speakers, understand AI is everywhere already, and people don't really realize they see it as this thing that's coming or this big scary, but it's already embedded in so much of what we do. Hey, hey Google. So learn what you can, learn how it applies. I heard something great the other day where it was, you're not competing against AI, you're competing with your competitor that is using AI. So try to understand what tools exist out there, because there are some great tools that could help you in your business. If you're a solopreneur and you have a website and being asked constant questions, maybe you're putting a little, chat AI messenger on there, and now that's able to answer, 90% of the questions coming through or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't I'm a writer, so I don't think AI is replacing me, but I do use it a lot and recommend people use it a lot for idea generation. So if you're stuck on something, or if you're looking how to do something, ask openai.com, and then they'll give you some ideas, and then don't copy it, but understand how they did it. Oh, wow, I didn't think about using that. Oh, it has a subheading. Oh, here's 3, and you can run with that. So that's with AI. And then I think with social media, it's understanding where are your specific customers. There's no point in spending time posting on 3 channels if your customers aren't even on there.
Correct.
Right? So are they really on Instagram? Are they on Facebook? And I think that if it really overwhelms you, take the piece that you can bite off for now. I don't think it's going to make or break. Of course, there's people, saying post 7 times a week and, or do this and that. But I think don't put your head in the sand, but also it's not all or nothing. You know what I mean? Bite off, start. I remember when Facebook first came out, and I don't want to do it. What if I post a blog and 1,000 people come on and say mean things? Well, wouldn't it be nice if 1,000 people visited my blog? I don't think so. So it's not as daunting as it seems if you're on the outside looking in. So take baby steps, do what you can, and see what works, right? Maybe there's certain things that are really going to work, and maybe there's not. But if you don't try, you won't know.
Yeah. Do you find it with some of your clients, they try to do too much at one time? And what I mean by that is that if you get involved with Facebook or Instagram and you set up a group and you have followers, you have to realize that you have to keep posting to keep the followers interested. So it is not a one-time thing. It's a daily or weekly week has to be daily or weekly.
Right.
And then you get trapped because you have to do it.
Well, I think, again, consistency is important. Like you said, you don't want to set up an Instagram account and then, your potential clients are coming on and you haven't posted for 6 months. Same goes for a blog. Same goes for anything like that.
True.
Don't look at my blog. I haven't written one for a while. But, life happens too. And I think more and more as we get through this, people are understanding that too. So as long as you have somewhat of a commitment and somewhat of an understanding to say, I'm going to try and do this a couple times a week, and that your clients are on there. But I think there's also tools to help. So a lot of times people approach it like, I got to post on social media today. What am I going to post? Versus thinking about, given my business, what are the 4 pillars of topics that I should be posting about? So for me, it might be events, email marketing, female empowerment, and maybe my dog is my fun personal thing, right? And then brainstorm under each of those pillars 10, 20 things that you want to talk about, right?
Right.
And then sit down and maybe do 10 posts at once. And there are scheduling tools out there. I use one called Pally, Pallyyy. There's one called Later. You can use Canva. So what you can do is if you have an hour or two, you're like, okay, I'm going to do my social today. And you hop in there, you spend your effort, and then maybe you get 2 weeks worth. Right?
Okay.
So because I very rarely sit down every day to do it, I am more scheduling it out, and it becomes less of a burden if you kind of batch work. The other piece I would say is I just recently hired a virtual assistant, and it's the best thing that ever happened to me so far. And she's been handling a lot of my socials. So I will still write the captions, and I will still guide her as far as what I want to write about. But wow, for her to be in there and troubleshooting and, oh, we spelled something wrong, you're going to go back in and change that video, and she's scheduling it, it's a huge lifesaver. So if you're able to, that is something you can delegate.
Well, I think it's very wise to do it in a batch. You're right, because that way your mindset is doing it. You do it, you get it over with. It's hard after a tough day of either being stuck on the road for most of the day or whatever, sitting down after supper and spending 2 hours to do an update on a blog or a
Right.
posting and so on. So I think it's very smart to do it batch-wise and then release one every week, and then you're good for 2 months or whatever the number is.
Yeah, and then my other marketing PSA to everybody listening, and you'll like it if you don't like social media, is Mark Zuckerberg owns those followers.
Yes.
So if you each of you know how hard it is to earn each one of those followers. So I ask you, how would you feel tomorrow if all of a sudden your account was turned off or it had been hacked? Devastated if all of a sudden you lose all that information. And the algorithm, you work an hour out after a long, hard day on that, and then 3% of your 1,000 people are actually seeing that. It doesn't seem fair. So I always tell my clients it is time for an email list. And with your emails, you have to understand you own that list. So every email that you have, except if your computer's hacked, you have those emails that you can use. And when you send out an email to your list, there's 100% or a 99%, unless something's bounced, that they get it. Whether they open it or not, that's another story. But then it gets to them. Those are much better percentages than Instagram.
Yes.
You can have direct access, and then it opens up this whole other world of being able to promote to your audience rather than just throwing it to Mark and hoping he decides to send it to your people, right? So a little more satisfying.
Well, I find, this is a personal opinion, I get about 40 to 50 emails a day.
Yep.
And if I'm tied up in meetings all day, I only look at it the next day where I've gotten another 40 to 50 emails. And part of the problem is the emails from the day before have gone to another page, so you don't see them.
Yes.
And then if you get tied up in meetings for that day, then you've got another 50.
120, yeah.
So how do you tell clients to follow up on emails, or to not necessarily rely strictly on emails? And what I mean by that is people send an email and they assume that the person has received it. They assume that they've had the time to read it, and they assume that they're going to reply.
Well, two different things, like a business email that I'm saying, hey, I've attached a document, please review it, versus email marketing where I'm sending it to my clients, say like a social media. So on the email marketing side, people say that all the time. I don't want to do email marketing because it seems junky, like it's just spammy. People get so many emails. However, I want you to think about your inbox and all the emails you receive. And so it could be Best Buy at Christmas. And you're like, I'm not opening that because I know what they're going to be. Oh, another 30% off sale on a product that I don't want. You know what I mean? Or the Gap. Oh, 40% off again. I know that's going to come next week. So delete, delete, delete. Versus you might have an email that you receive from somebody that you really like because inside is going to be a nugget, And so what I tell clients is, you're not just, again, same as social, I guess it's time to send out an email. You have to provide real value and know your client. And it's not just about selling to them. It should only be like a fifth of the time you're selling. It should be more like, let's say you're a jewelry owner. Here's some tips on how to clean your jewelry. Or did you just buy this? This goes really nicely with this. Or this is how you should wear this. Or for me, it might be, 3 tips to get your emails open more, or 5 tips for your subject line. So that, oh, Tracy's sending an email. I know there's going to be some good nugget in there. I want to read it. Versus if you abuse that and you're constantly selling to somebody, or you're, just filling their inbox with the jargon, then you'll quickly hit the unsubscribe or delete. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I do a lot of that too. I just look at it, and depending on if it's Shoppers Drug Mart most of the time it's cosmetics, and I don't wear cosmetics anymore.
Yeah,
So that's
yeah.
so it's delete.
Yeah, for sure.
But even that takes time, because
I know.
sometimes you say, well, maybe I should look at it, because sometimes they have coffee
I
on
know,
sale.
I know.
So
I got my co-op student last year. That was one of her jobs. I was
it?
like, can you go unsubscribe from every single retail store? You need to do that once in a while, yeah.
Well, my example too is Zoomer magazine. Anything from Zoomer, I delete,
Right.
because there's nothing in there that I need or I want. And if there is, I'll open it up or I'll look in the magazine.
Right. So it's a good lesson though for all of us that if you are emailing to your audience, to make sure that you've nailed it as far as what they want to hear, right?
Well, not only that, people get, I get a lot of text. And I tell people, I said, look, if I'm driving, I may not be able to read your text.
Right.
So if it's urgent, call me.
Right.
And we can talk about it. Or if it's a complex thing, please don't send me a text, because we'll go back and forth 20 texts.
I know.
Where a 2-minute phone call would solve the problem very quickly.
Same with family drama.
Oh, yeah. It's all the same. It's all the same.
Yeah. The reply alls, people need to hone in on that too,
Well,
but that's a whole nother podcast.
Well, you know what happened is I got an email from an organization that I belong to, and it was sent to the president and with copies to the executive, right? So I looked at that, and there was a question, but it was directed to the president, not to the people that were copied. So I didn't reply to it because it wasn't sent to me.
Well, CC means
But
just
the people that were CC'd were replying, oh, yeah, that's a good idea. And you look at that, and it is a good idea. So the context wasn't a problem. But you have to realize that it's not this question of one person asking another person, and they're CCing, say, the executive group so people are aware. But they're not asking the executive group. The proper protocol there is to send it to everybody.
Right.
Please advise all of you, look it over the comment and let me know.
Right.
Because what happens now is you get that, and one person gets it. Instead of replying to the person
Oh, I know.
they wanted, they replied to all.
I know. And
So
then
that-
God forbid if you're in a meeting when that's happened and then you come back out and you start at the top and you have no idea what's happening.
Yeah. And
I hear you.
So I think that's the danger of some of the things we do, not approaching it intelligently and realizing sometimes that you're creating a problem by trying to get a solution.
Right. I think communication etiquette, right?
Yeah, and knowing the difference. But anyway, I'm an old fuddy-duddy in some way, so don't
No.
worry about it. Okay, in closing, tips. What tips would you have for anyone starting any kind of business enterprise in Aurora?
We'd love a restaurant, more restaurants in Aurora, please. Yes. So if you are starting, let us know. If somebody was starting a business anywhere, but particularly in Aurora, I think what's really important, and it's going to sound super basic, but make sure there is a need for your offer. So often people have this idea that they want to start their own business. So what do they do first? What's my logo going to look like? What are my colors going to be? Oh, I need to make a website or I need to find a building. But really what you should be asking yourself is getting very specific on what are you offering, whether it's a product or a service, who you think is going to buy that, and then go out and test that. Talk to those people. So if you think moms are going to, living in Aurora, are going to come to your store and do A, B, and C, you better be going out and talking to a lot of those moms first to find out, do they even want what you think is, the next best thing since sliced bread? Because oftentimes I think we're in our own heads and we might have great ideas, but like you said earlier, we often don't get it right on the first try. So this market research, and it doesn't have to be some fancy thing, but just again, talking to people, asking questions of your target audience to say, do you think this is a great idea? Would you use this? How much would you pay for it? And let them really do a lot of the talking. And it's amazing how much information you can get back. They might say, oh, I hate it when this happens, or I would never do that, or, oh, this is my favorite flavor, or whatever it is. But I think too many people jump on that idea without doing that essential market research, that maybe they're close and all it would be is a tweak or two and they nail it, but they don't take that extra time. They spend the extra time on their logo and they really miss the mark, and then sometimes don't end up being as successful as they could.
Yeah, or they don't realize that their capacity is not sufficient to fill the market needs.
Mm-hmm.
So you start off, like say you decide to make cupcakes and you decide to do it from home. Well, food and health people frown on you not having a commercial kitchen
Right.
with all the other things that go along with it. So technically you can't do it from home.
Right.
So now you have to invest in a facility, in ovens and all that stuff. And if you're looking at a market of only 1,000 pieces per month, you'll never pay off the equipment.
Right. Right. So
But
it's
you're
really
absolutely
important.
right. So doing the research is critical in the beginning. Once you know that there's a market there, then you can do your logo and website and yada, yada, yada.
And the hard reality is often there is a huge shift in that first 3, 6, 8 months. So if you do put that off a little bit, sometimes that helps, because if you go ahead and do your everything, without sort of those growing pains at the beginning, it can be a waste. But I heard that once. It was like, more than your website and your logo and your colors, make sure that people are willing to buy what you're offering.
that
Sounds
market is-
basic, but
No, yeah, but a lot of times people fall in love with the idea they have of running a business, starting a business, and you have to love it to be successful at it.
for sure.
But prioritizing it to do what you should do instead of what you like to do, always difficult. No matter
Yeah.
who you are, always difficult.
Yeah, for sure.
Tracy, thank you. It's been a glorious time talking to you.
It was wonderful meeting you.
And
Thank you for having me.
I really enjoyed it.